William Patterson University Television.
Welcome back to Press Start. Well, they finally did it. After 12 long years, Valve finally announced Half-Life 3, but not exactly. Earlier this week, Valve unveiled their new flagship VR title, HalfLife Alyx. This is still massive news to fans that have been waiting years to get a new game from the company. And no, we don't count Artifact. I'm joined today by fans of the series, Tiernan and Thomas, to get their thoughts on the new title. Let's get right into it. Starting with you, Tiernan, can you describe your experience with Half-Life?
Well, I first heard of the series when I was in middle school, and when I went to high school, I was able to buy Half-Life 2. I then went into the episodes, and then went into more branches of it with Half-Life Blue Shift and Half-Life Deathmatch.
What about you, Thomas?
Well, I was first introduced to the franchise by my father in middle school when I saw him playing both Half-Life 1 and 2 on the computer, and then when I gave it a try, I instantly fell in love with it. I've played pretty much every game in the series. 1 and 2, both of 2's episodes, Blue Shift, Opposing Force, and their multiplayer counterparts. I'm just really excited there's a new installment finally after all this time.
Definitely. And just looking at the trailer for this game, it looks amazing. Do you like the new style of the game compared to the old ones?
Oh yeah, it's a massive revamp from what it originally was. I feel like with the enhanced graphics, it gives it more of a scary factor to it.
Yeah.
Because you always see with all of the Half-Life games, there's always a sense of horror in there, but it's not really dived into, but it's still there.
Like
it's
head
present.
crabs
Exactly.
are just
Yes.
terrifying.
Exactly. Terrifying. And being able to enhance that, being in an actual VR environment is pretty wild.
And another thing, I just loved how they feel, even though the game looks fresh and new, it still keeps the atmosphere from Half-Life 2. Just looking at the world, you can tell this is a world that's post-apocalyptic after an alien invasion where humanity clearly did not win, and now we're just trying our best to fight back to save our planet and ensure that our species has a chance of survival.
And you like this new horror aspect with it, especially with VR?
Yeah, I do. With everything, like I said, it's always been there with the games and everything like that. There's always been it's always been present, but never really explored. And being able to finally get into it, I think VR was going to be the way to unlock that part of the game.
Definitely.
I'm getting Ravenholm vibes because in Half-Life 2 there's a level called Ravenholm, which is basically, it felt like a whole horror game where you're just in a town full of headcrab zombies, and it's just, I was just playing it over the weekend and I was like, wow, this level still is amazing and terrifying, and I still find myself on edge, whenever I'm surrounded, oh, I gotta get out of here.
And then now with this one, ooh.
See those little guys coming at your face in VR,
Gosh, especially because now you can actually react. Oof. So Half-Life Alyx is supposed to be a prequel to Half-Life 2, where there was the tragic cliffhanger of Half-Life 2 that happened. Are you disappointed that installment may never get a proper ending? Or is this their opportunity to work out the tech and return to it later?
Well, when it comes to returning to Half-Life and bringing Half-Life 3 to us finally, with how long it's been 12 years.
Yeah.
And the technology has gotten wickedly more amazing than it was back then, and when the last installment was released. And with the tragic ending of Half-Life Episode 2, it was just it left us on, like you said, it left us on a major cliffhanger, and we were expecting something immediate to see what would happen afterwards. The epic conclusion to one of the greatest game franchises in history. And we've been waiting, 12 years for it, and this is what's left behind. Look at that. Wouldn't you want to know what happens right after that? and then they just leave you there? It's it's not, what do you think?
Half-Life 2, that Episode 2 came out in 2007. That seems like such a long time back. And the fact that they've left the fans on edge about this cliffhanger after seeing such a beloved character get killed off, it's fans have been anticipating this for so long, and I'm hoping that Half-Life Alyx is the gateway to the creation of Half-Life 3, because when they announce that, if they ever announce that, everyone's gonna freak out about that.
I did hear that there's rumors, because they recommend that you play Half-Life 2 Episode 2 before you play Half-Life Alyx, because it is a prequel. That makes no sense a little bit, but there's supposed to be maybe an element of time travel with it. How do you feel about that?
I mean, like I said, rumors are rumors. You're never gonna know what's gonna happen unless the game finally comes out when information is released. And then going back to like all the different like technical aspects of the story itself, like I feel like adding like a time travel like subject into it isn't really gonna be that effective when it comes to the mastery of storytelling that the games have been able to portray.
I mean, that's the thing. Time travel, it can be a really big gamble to throw into a story because if you don't write it correctly, you can end up like putting a lot of plot holes in the story. And honestly, with how Valve's been taking the Half-Life franchise, the story has never been super complicated. More like the lore has been what's been making it so interesting. I don't think time travel would be necessary to add to the game to give us like a great story to understand how much more we can to explore this world. We can just give us that environment, let us explore, let us fight our way through it, and we'll be happy as it is, I think.
So, I don't know if it's controversial, but this is coming out as exclusively VR. Do you think that was the right move for them to do?
Well, the thing is, this is like one of the first major Half-Life games, and one of the most major games to come out on VR. But like, it's hard enough to start up a VR headset and get it working and getting all the all the precursors needed to get everything ready to use a VR headset. It's another thing to like start using it with other people. Like they said it in like interviews before where like they wanted to use Half-Life because it's a single player game that you're able to move through slowly. Unlike Portal or Left 4 Dead or any other games that are more multiplayer and require you to have fast actions. Because you can't really move that fast in VR. You're standing in place and you gotta jump from place to place. That's why I feel like with Half-Life Alyx, they're going to be able to, smoothly integrate themselves into a VR, world. But in the same time, it's just still too much of a niche community, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, VR headsets. I mean, the VR game market's never been super big as it is. But I mean, I definitely think taking Half-Life into VR would definitely prove to be effective, especially given how they're going with this whole horror aspect to it. It's going to be interesting when it comes out, and I think it comes out March 2020 next year, so I feel like this is going to be a big gateway for VR the VR gaming industry. And I've never played a VR game. I never really tried it out, but hey, I would definitely give this a shot when it comes out.
So as you had mentioned with Porter and Half-Life and VR gaming in relation to that, Jeff Keighley recently sat down with Valve about Half-Life Alyx, and they said it was between making Portal or Half-Life VR, but they ultimately went with Half-Life, probably for the reason that you've said. And after hearing that, do you think that there's hope, though, for other Valve series like Portal and Left 4 Dead to pick up again, even going this new direction?
One can hope if Valve can count to 3.
The thing is with, like I said, with Left 4 Dead and Portal, like you have to have a lot of fast actions, and you're working with a lot of people in those games, and there's a lot of elements in those games as well that require sometimes a lot of lag-inducing bandwidth. But so with VR, that could be a major problem because with it being still a rather new field for gaming and stuff like that, I feel technology would still need to improve in order to get those games to where gamers would want to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely very familiar with the hardware capabilities of these VR headsets. I mean, Half-Life looks gorgeous, but Portal, if you're going to make a Portal game in VR, that's going to be a whole different because that involves like putting portals into the game and constantly switching between rooms at a very fast rate. It's a very
That's future
stuff.
Yeah.
Watch out for motion sickness.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine you just portal above you, portal below you, just fall infinitely through. Like, I can't imagine how they're going to do that in VR.
Oh, no. Now you have me rethinking it.
Sorry.
So, do you guys plan on playing Half-Life Alyx when it comes out?
Do you have a VR headset?
That is a good point.
They're not exactly cheap. They're like, most of them are like $400, $500 each.
Yeah.
And
do you plan on trying to find a friend with a VR headset?
if I can, I'll get it. And maybe if I can get more money, I'll definitely get one and try it out. Because like I said, if there's one game that's going to convince me to give VR a shot, it's going to be Half-Life. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have to talk about Half-Life for today. Thank you, Tiernan and Thomas, for joining me. Make sure to stay tuned because next we have Beyblade and Bakugan going head-to-head in a franchise face-off.